Yeah, it's gonna be a chill week, I said, and then Blizzard was like, bam, Merry Christmas, get back to work, right? Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, your roller coaster of commentary. You can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catch me live where I'm streaming. So this is gonna be a long one. There's a lot to unpack from this week, like how people have been reacting to the launch of the latest patch, along with the reveal of the next patch, 11.1 and Season 2, and what we've learned from developer notes and data mining. This week's patch is pretty boring, is what a lot of folks have been sharing on social media since Siren Isle launched. Mostly bug-free, but depending on who you're asking, it's content-free as well. I've been trying to say this for quite some time now, the collective feedback from players all over, not just from you or me, but from pretty much every corner over the past few years, it led to this kind of WoW content that feels safe. No obligations like justice and valor to cap out every week. There's no Torghast-sized detours for powerful gear that feels required. There's no weekly race to run out of things to do and, which led to more waiting. That's why with Dragonflight we got the likes of time rifts and okay, I forgot what it's called. It's the one where we're digging for piles of dirt for 10 minutes and then killing a boss, but, basically less memorable activities that at the very least are evergreen. Speaking just for me though, I'm getting what I want out of Siren Isle. We're getting more shield transmog and little things to collect, and a ring to up my healing as a tank, ensuring my dominance as being the best in the world at healing as a tank. It's my niche. Let me have it, all right? What got people even more frustrated was the time gating and waiting that I talked about. Like, that was around, and folks realized what others have been saying all along, that it wasn't about the waiting for flying or even the item level upgrades for the ring, but our ability to customize it the way we want. That was going to take a number of weeks. Now, that has since been solved, and as of this writing, we're still waiting for a hotfix that'll get us access to all the available gems somehow, some way. Now, I get what Blizzard was trying to do here. They wanted to get a ring into people's hands easily and get them like a basic loadout to get started. Problem is, most people don't want basic, they want the new best in slot like Ian promised, and they want it yesterday. Ultimately, this story is a repeat of a common lesson we see not just in World of Warcraft, but in all of gaming. Wait a week, then show up all happy and wondering why are people so mentally drained. Now our attention turns to finding out when we'll learn more about, oh, no, never mind, we know that too. So it's kind of no wonder why we're learning about what's next sooner than we thought. Tons of information for patch 11.1 dropped this week, with the actual PTR going up next year after the break. For all that we put Blizzard through, I do hope they give themselves plenty of time to rest and rejuvenate so they can start off the new year getting it right the first time for a change. Just playing. Anyway, I covered the general thing of what's coming and changing in the 11.1 patch and Season 2 in a separate video, so if you want just the dry information, I'll provide a link to that below. I'm going to focus on the commentary and the initial reactions I've been seeing on what I think is a pretty big deal in this upcoming patch, so let's start with the elephant in the room, tier set bonuses. What's happening this time around are the 2 set bonuses. They're taking on specific themes based on the raid. Now that alone's got people split, with early comments trashing the idea of homogenizing what should be special class specific bonuses to enhance gameplay or at least feel cool. Now I know I'm a one-trick pony when it comes to playstyle, but I can at least tell you, in my 17 years tanking as a paladin, no, not every set bonus felt cool. Hell, my current bonus doesn't feel very cool. Meanwhile, this Season 2 bonus means I can go brr with my Shield of the Righteous. It's got some kind of reverberating effects, which I think is pretty neat, so hey, okay, Blizzard, that's like 1 out of like 40. A lot of the grumbling is over how the 4-piece bonuses are themed after luck, as in RNG procs, which means, a chance in order for the cool thing to happen. I feel like melee DPS have it worst because they'll be building up these stacks, but certain abilities have a chance of resetting these stacks. Without testing, we're missing information, namely what's the chance of activating these streaks in the first place, and if there's some sort of internal cooldown. For all we know, the uptime on this will be reasonably high, but on paper, yeah, I can see why people are mad. The bonuses for ranged DPS, tanks, and healers, they don't share this same kind of bad RNG. It's all pretty beneficial, especially for tanks and healers. Like, there's no scenario where we're gonna have a chance to underperform and, as a tank or healer, that would get the party or the raid killed. I'm gonna guess the set bonus approach for melee is the one that's most likely to change before going live. And hey, let's be clear, these set bonuses weren't data mined. Okay, they were data mined, but not just data mined. They were posted from Blizzard, and they were asking for feedback. How I feel about the set bonus that I care about, that's just me, so definitely share your takes in the comments. Some big changes are happening for Delves, and I'm a little bit mixed. First off, let's talk about Tank Bran. We see him sporting a shield and pistol, along with some new curio abilities shared across all of his specs. Tank Bran as an announcement sounds great. Tank Bran in practice, again, we gotta talk about it because he might affect Delves in some weird and unintentional ways. Like, think of how Bran is right now. He has a general toolkit of being able to deal damage, heal a bit, and mitigate to a certain extent. And we can make him deal more damage or do more healing. Tank Bran was first talked about as a way to help healer specs who were still struggling with Delves using a DPS Bran because, the aggro was kind of wonky, Bran's survivability was a little bit shaky, and, dude jumps around like a psycho. It made the battlefield feel really chaotic. So I fully support Tank Bran for healers. I envision him having taunt abilities, a certain hardiness to take hits so the healer can keep him up, and dealing a majority of the damage between him and one human player. But is it intended for Tank Bran to help support a DPS? I want to say, yeah, sure, why not? But I imagine there's a thin line to cross where if Bran is too tanky, the delve becomes more about him than anything else, and not really about the player's skill with their class. We might be like, hey, everything's gonna be okay, Bran can just hold it, and maybe I can throw some off heals or something. But a Bran that feels tanky enough that he only needs some off heals and not an actual healer spec character, I don't know, I think that feels a little bit imbalanced. Now maybe it'd be more fair if the game didn't allow Bran to be a tank unless there was a healer spec in the group, or he loses his throughput as a tank if it's just like a solo DPS player with him. What would be really broken though is if Bran tank worked with an actual tank, or more specifically someone like me who has all this passive damage reduction on allies and with off healing. A prop paladin and tank Bran would just break delves. They would trivialize delves entirely. I would not be surprised at all if Tank Bran and I were able to walk in at the start of season 2 and almost immediately progress our way to do top level delves right away. Now I do hope they can maintain the fun and progression of delves alongside a tank NPC while realizing players are gonna make it their thing to do the unexpected. There's also such a thing as over-designing something like this, but don't worry, I'm just kind of throwing my thoughts out there. The possible imbalance of Tank Bran is going to be important because of the Gilded Crests players might be able to regularly farm in delves during next season. We don't know what's going to happen exactly, but we're going to speculate and make some conclusions. In Season 2, it'll be possible to fight our way to 11s and collect a special treasure meant to give us Gilded Crests. With the current crest changes already in place and expected to follow us into Season 2, the value of crests have increased a lot, notably for the purpose of crafting higher level gear. Adding a consistent and farmable path to Gilded Crests via delves, it's going to affect different players in different ways depending on who you're talking to. Not all of it's good. It's going to be great for pure solo people who will be able to max out the hero gear they've been earning without having to wait until all their hero gear was maxed out and they can finally trade their crests up. It would mean having to wait for those last pieces of gear before graduating to Gilded Crest a little bit less painful. In general, it's going to be great for people who want or need Gilded but are just having trouble trying to break into +8s and higher keys or mythic raids, because the plateau sucks, right? Now, to be fair, some players, they frankly look down on delves. They look at them and they're like, oh my god, it's for the casuals, it's for the noobs, it's for the undeserving, whatever. But those same players are probably going to look in the direction of delves, begrudgingly participating with similar energy to the likes of Torghast. They don't want to do this, they don't like it, but they feel like they have to do it. It's not a great feeling, but it's also, kind of sort of their problem, not necessarily ours. But we also need to consider just how farmable will Gilded be in delves. I do think there's a line that can be crossed that'll actually be bad for the game, and I'll explain. If we were able to farm up Gildeds from +11s all the way to the season cap, that's gonna totally rock endgame. Everyone is gonna be gravitating towards delves as the required thing for capping on Gilded each week, especially in the early weeks. These folks are gonna craft myth level gear as the pacing allows, and max out hero gear as soon as they can. The raid scene will probably work out okay in the long run, but Mythic Plus World is going to be in chaos for a good chunk of the season. We only need to look back to Season 1 of The War Within, when it was very, very easy to pick up champion and some hero gear gear early in the season. This led to players trying to run keys at their gear level rather than build up their own experience with these dungeons, which led to lots of failed runs and just bad feelings that helped contribute to the current social state of pugs. Now imagine similar phenomena at an even higher gear level. We'll see more players trying to get into higher keys whose experience while gearing up has just been in delves. All the gear and the weak auras in the world aren't going to help groups with those kinds of players, possibly dragging them down because they used delves as a shortcut. And at the same time, the people who felt like they had to progress to this point, they were, I guess, confused by delves, and who gets the blame? Of course it's going to be Blizzard. I want to tell myself, like, I believe the number of Gilded provided from delves ought to be, reined in. Like, maybe 1 or 2 upgrades worth of Gildeds is a good place to start a cap. So, like, completing 2 11s per week. It'll still arguably be the easiest way to earn Gilded, but at least with that kind of cap, we curb a certain dependence on delves for gear. Rather, it's kind of like a stop that certain players are going to make each week before doing their actual desired endgame, or to fill things out when they're done for the week, or, a week's about to end. Now, if they wanted to call it a chore, okay, cool, let it be a chore. But am I saying that non-high-end players only deserve that much Gilded, like just 1 or 2 upgrades a week? No, of course not. I just wanted to start the conversation of what works and what doesn't, and, present ideas, and then you can bounce something back at me. Maybe this Gilded chest can have like its own separate seasonal cooldown, like we can get so many of these Gilded crests from delves over the course of a season. Of course, that opens up a different can of worms, but, this kind of stuff is what I really like talking about. Okay, another thing I really want to talk about, this Raid Renown track they're cooking up for the next season, because my initial response was like, oh my god, this is awesome. But now that it's been a day, I'm like, oh my god, this really is awesome. The notion of this is a very raid-centric thing, so the more we raid, the instance itself progresses to become a bit more accessible and rewarding with, a few things that we can take home as souvenirs. So to my understanding, as we raid and defeat raid bosses, and I'm almost certain progression is going to work the same across all difficulties, even the Raid Finder legions could start moving down this 20 level track. So we have 20 levels. Alright, so how's that going to be split up? Season 1 of War Within is estimated to be around like 6 months long, so, well over 20 weeks, but I don't think it's going to be such a great idea if in Season 2 we only get like 1 Renown thing a week over the next, like 5 months. 1.5 levels, I think, feels much more reasonable. Now, if I'm right with this progression, it's going to mean every 2 weeks we'll get a throughput bonus, just like the Narubar Finery thing, and between that, we'll get a perk to help us in the raid. I found this to be very, very cool, because not too long ago, I shared ideas about guild perks, and I envisioned something like this, where if the guild plays together, they'll eventually unlock these kinds of raid perks, like repairs inside the instance, and wipe protection, and movement speed increases, and so on and so forth. So, oh well, there goes one idea I had that I thought would make being in a guild feel cool, but on the flip side, this is great for everyone who does even a minimum amount of raiding via Raid Finder. What I didn't expect, though, was for the Renown track to offer up to 2 tokens used to buy stuff off of the raid's loot table. Think the dinar, the bullion, the recent coffer keys from Blackrock Depths. If all of these perks are available across the warband, including the gear, this spells for a very, very alt-friendly experience waiting for us in Season 2, as long as we raid at some capacity. And we have been seeing, of course, with some speed bumps here and there, a very welcoming experience for all up to a certain level, and in the big picture, I think this is great for raiding overall. It's a fun answer to the question of why should we raid week after week without it feeling too much of a required thing. Like, we got the transparency, which, yeah, it translates into time gating too, but I hope this is received well and we get similar treatment in the future. It'll also mean we'll see new conversations about raids feeling like required content, even if it might only go as far as Raid Finder. I took this segment into the back, but it's a topic still very important to me, improving your social experience in World of Warcraft. Last week, for friends on the Americas side of WoW, we talked up a channel called WoW Made Easy. They're out there to help people connect to more relaxed groups, but still aim for success, notably in Mythic Keystones. Today, I want to give a big mention to a Discord channel that functions similarly. They're called No Pressure. This channel focuses on the EU side, and just like WoW Made Easy, it has a few strict rules in that you can only group with people from the channel using the tools provided. Here they employ the use of a bot, where if you find a group you're interested in, a click will reserve your spot, at least in the Discord post, you're given a password to use, and in you go, assuming someone else isn't also happening to be queuing with you. The goal is the same, run content like keys in a, I guess, pre-filtered group finder, where the baddies, as in, bad attitude, they're sanded away, leaving the rest of us to have a bit of a safer place to play and learn and hopefully succeed. So a link to that is in the video description. And we also got to talk about the Dungeon Dojo, who caters both to the Americas and EU, but are currently more active in the EU side. They've been all over my feed over the past few months. People have been name dropping them every now and then, and so I looked into it. I sat down with the channel's founder, Wochi, who is very, very nice. I won't post the whole chat we had, but instead I'll carve out the good parts as to what the Dungeon Dojo's purpose is, how it got started, what it's done, where it's going, and you'll learn a little bit about who's behind it. Enjoy.
The system that is being provided, the LFG, or even the looking for group for now Mythic Plus, inherently is not a bad system. Unfortunately, like in any possible games ever, is the players that distort and twist this type of mechanics using the meta. And I thought, okay, if I have a guild, I will never get refused for dungeons. That again wasn't the right thing, because again in guilds people create their own clique of people, they always play together. So the moment you try to break that circle and try to fit in somebody else that has already been playing 6 hours together as a 5 stack, you're gonna end up not fitting. So they don't want you because they're not used to you. It was during Shadowlands, and you know better than me, when we were talking about meta back in there, you had what covenant are you playing? Blizzard have created a system that clearly defines one choice better than another. I don't want to live in this situation anymore. I'm gonna make a group that doesn't look at any of that, because anybody can do any dungeon regardless of the class, spec, covenant in this case. So I started the Dungeon Dojo like that, with like 10-15 people, a very hard task even now. When you have all these tools available, all these communities like the dojo available, you still see on social media people that are reluctant of taking the choice when given one, and rather than just, oh, I tried to pug last night and it was a nightmare, I don't know what I'm doing. Join us, please, we can help you. That is a goal that as a community is very much easy to achieve, because we have the support of a lot of awesome players that are helping and coaching and teaching, because that's what basically we do. We don't like the word carry. You're doing nothing to contribute, so we are helping you to just get the title and then you can go on for your own life. That's not what we do. We try to teach and give you the building blocks, the tools, to then be able to stand your ground and be productive, be proactive in this type of run. So we don't just help you get in the title, but we explain you how we get in the title, what to pull, how to use it defensive, which mobs to interrupt, to kick, to dispel, which the defensive cooldown you should be using. So it's not just come on, we get you the title, and then we get into the next one and do the same. And as long as everybody's doing what you know to do, so how to deal with packs, deal with mobs, everything is perfectly doable. The meta is another self-construct obstacle that we have created for ourselves because we want life to be easier. This is not the reality. You can do everything up to a 10 and probably a little bit further with just what we have. For us, the start of Season 1 was effectively harsher than expected. There was also a big misconception of how hard was a 2 compared to the past. And still people wouldn't understand that, guys, a 2 is a 12. You're starting as a 2 is much harder than a previous season. So people were expecting, oh, it's just a 2, we're gonna go breeze through, and we're getting disintegrated by mobs. What we try to do as the dojo is, it doesn't matter, we're gonna run 20,000 twos if need to be, get the strategies down, get to know the mobs, and then with time, without any pressure, the season is gonna be long, we're gonna get there to KSM. for everybody to experience it. Because when you rush, people stop learning and just follow and hope that nobody noticing that they're not understanding stuff, because they're afraid of asking questions most of the times. The sensei are the ones that basically, alongside us admin, organizes groups, organize raids, and they take their own time to just coach at a very base level, of course, telling the strategies of a boss or guiding somebody through a run. They all have to be people, of course, that have that innate skill of nurturing somebody that is probably scared about doing this type of content. So it's not necessarily is the top 1% player that becomes a sensei. He's also the person that understands the situation of these new players or returning players that don't know what they're doing, and because he's been there himself. So he has been in that position, he has evolved, and now he's the one that helps others running this. And also we have what we call the dungeon guides. Again, these are people and either help in text, fill in the ranks for filling up a group for a dungeon or filling up a group for a raid. So these two figures are the ones that people usually see as reference points to ask help. So Break the Meta was an event organized by Renown, basically trying to put together a team of non-meta spec that they listed according to the stats that have been pulled through all the participation through the website and so on. So basically they created a list of classes that only those classes you could use for run a group. And there is like, if you do 2 keys at a 5 or above time, you get the same banner that the MIDI participant gets. So it's like a toy. But there's also a competition that goes with that and so on. So if you want to push it the highest possible, you can try to go as high as you can for a chance of additional prize. But this was, of course, organized by Renown. We have our own, so if you want, Mythic Dungeon Invitational called the Dungeon Dojo Invitational, and there is one upcoming very soon. There's going to be an announcement coming very soon, but we do one every season. To describe that, I'm going to be using a movie reference. I hope that you have seen the first Matrix movie. So there is a particular scene in that there is Neo that wakes up and says, "I know Kung Fu," and Morpheus says, "Show me." So for me, the entirety of the season in the dojo is learning how to dungeon. Our Dungeon Dojo Invitational is show me. So it's like the final exam in a fun competition. Show us what you learned through the season in a nice open community event where teams battle to see who can go the highest. And we just are competing in different division of scoring with different skill levels, different abilities, and so on. Everybody trying to do their best to show what we have learned.
Really awesome WoW communities aren't just made up of like the biggest streamer chat or Reddit or the pre-made group tool. You can find these little community pockets or organizations or guilds or volunteer schools, apparently. The dojo is trying to build itself up to be a place where gaming of all skill levels can be not just accepted but celebrated. Unlike WoW Made Easy and No Pressure, the dojo tries to invite people to not just clear some dungeons with a chill group, but also to become a part of it, not unlike a guild. And you might not like that. So, of course, I invite you to check out other communities and channels. The group finder can feel like kind of a roll of the dice sometimes, so I say give these folks a shot. That's going to be the show, and I want to give it up to you, folks who have been watching me live here and over on Twitch. Also to our incredible patrons, your dedication has been awesome. And to you, viewer, you made it to the end. You fed the algorithm. So if you could please hit the like button, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.